Welcome to the deep dive. You send us the stuff, we dig into it and pull out the key ideas.
And today, we're looking at a speech from Jeff Bezos, trying to get inside his head a bit.
Exactly. It's not just a summary. We're trying to find a kind of framework, really, for how you might navigate your own career, your life, based on his thinking.
Yeah, our mission here is to really understand the principles he's lived by, drawn from, well, his pretty unique experiences. We want to give you something you can actually use.
Absolutely. You know, the story that always gets me is Bezos, way back, working out of his garage.
Oh yeah, the early Amazon days.
Right. And he tells someone, apparently with total confidence, he's going to be the richest guy in the world, starting an online bookstore.
It sounds almost, well, ridiculous in hindsight, doesn't it? That level of certainty.
It does. But
Mm.
that contrasts the huge ambition against the, humble start. That really sets the stage for the mindset we're exploring today. Okay, let's dive in.
That contrast is so important. It shows that mix of massive vision, but also like practical steps, which brings us right to that big decision he made.
Leaving the finance job, that stable, well-paying job.
Yeah. He talks about walking in Central Park with his boss.
Right, and the boss kind of says, sounds like a good idea, but maybe for someone who doesn't already have a great job like yours.
Which is interesting advice, actually. But what's key is Bezos' own thought process. He wasn't just shrugging off the security he had.
No, he was thinking ahead.
Yeah.
He was worried about looking back later and regretting not doing it.
Exactly. That's the core of his regret minimization framework.
He imagined himself at 80. Would 80-year-old Jeff regret failing at this internet thing more or regret never even trying?
And for him, the what if, the not trying, felt like the bigger potential regret.
So how does that apply to, us, to the listener?
Well, think about those big forks in the road you face,
Yeah.
where there's risk involved. Instead of just focusing on, oh no, what if I fail?
Mm-hmm.
Try projecting yourself like 10, 20, 30 years down the line.
Right. Like Bezos did with the 80-year-old test.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what inaction, what failure to try, would future you regret the most? It really can shift your perspective, make you lean into things you might otherwise shy away from.
And doesn't have to be just huge career changes, right?
Oh, absolutely not. It could be smaller things
Mhm.
like, should you take that course, learn that skill, move to that city? What would you regret not doing?
That's a really useful way to frame it. Okay, so from there, he talks about work in terms of a job, a career, and then a calling.
Yeah, that hierarchy. A job pays the bills. A career is about progression, but a calling. That's
Mhm.
the goal. That's where you really want to land if you can.
And that ties straight into following your passions, right? Your real passions, not just whatever seems cool at the moment.
Precisely. He warns against chasing, the hot passion of the day. It needs to be something deeper, something that genuinely resonates with you.
Which connects back to his own story, doesn't it?
It does. He talks about being a kid who was always tinkering, inventing things in the garage.
Yeah, like an automatic gate closer, a solar cooker that didn't quite work.
Uh-huh. Even things to spook his siblings. That inventor mindset was there early on.
So how does that passion connect to starting an online bookstore? Seems like a leap.
Well, you have to think about the internet back then. It was a new frontier, a place to build things, solve problems.
Ah, okay. So Amazon itself was kind of an invention, a way to connect people and products differently.
Exactly. It tapped into that core drive to create. Which brings up a good question. What's the difference between just an interest and a real calling?
Yeah, how do you know?
Well, I think passion can be intense, maybe short-lived sometimes, but a calling feels more like a deep purpose, something that pulls you consistently, aligns with who you are, what you want to contribute.
So a calling is maybe less about fleeting excitement and more about like sustained meaning, even when it's hard.
I think so. Interests can change, but a calling often feels more fundamental, more tied to your identity.
Okay, that makes sense. He also mentions a saying he likes from the military. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Right. Sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. Slow is fast.
But the idea is about being methodical,
No.
focusing on doing it right the first time. If you're smooth and precise, even if it feels slow initially.
You avoid mistakes, you don't have to backtrack, so you end up getting there faster overall.
Exactly. It's about quality of execution. Think measure twice, cut once. Rushing often leads to errors that cost you way more time in the long run.
So investing time up front in being deliberate pays off later. Less rework, less frustration.
Precisely. On any complex task, rushing the early stages almost guarantees problems later. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, It's about a sustainable pace for better results.
Now, this next point, I found this really powerful. The difference between pride in your gifts and pride in your choices.
Ah, yes, this is huge in his thinking. Really central.
He says you can be like grateful for talents you're born with, being smart or tall or good at music, whatever.
Things you didn't earn?
Right, but you can't really be proud of them in the same way. Pride, he argues, comes from the effort, the decisions you make.
Totally. His example is math, right? Maybe you have a knack for it. That's the gift.
But choosing to practice, choosing to push yourself, choosing to do the hard problems, those are the choices. That's where the pride comes in.
Exactly. It's about the agency you exert. We write our own stories through the choices we make, the hard work we put in, the resilience we show.
It really shifts the focus, doesn't it? From what you're handed to what you do with it.
Yeah,
Puts the power back in your court.
it does. It suggests character isn't just something you have, it's something you build choice by choice.
Mhm.
It's quite empowering when you think about it. Our self-worth is tied to our actions.
And that leads him to pose this really challenging question, thinking about yourself at 80, looking back.
Yeah, what will make you prouder? A life of ease, comfort, things being generally okay.
Or a life of service and adventure.
It forces you to think about your deeper values. His view is pretty clear. Contributing, taking risks, engaging with the world that leads to more lasting satisfaction.
It's the difference between just coasting and actively participating, maybe. Pushing your own limits.
I think so. It encourages you to be proactive, not just reactive. The best stories often involve overcoming challenges, right? A bit of adventure.
Definitely. And building on that, he's actually quite optimistic about the present day.
Yeah, he talks about this being an incredible time to be alive, despite all the problems we see.
He focuses on the sheer amount of inspiration, innovation, change, opportunity.
It's a useful counter-narrative, isn't it? To focus on the potential and the progress. Rather than getting bogged down in negativity, it fosters a more hopeful, active mindset.
It's a reminder that, yeah, things are complex, but there's also amazing stuff happening, and we can be part of it. Which brings us to these specific questions he asks, kind of a self-reflection checklist.
Yes, these are really piercing questions. They cut right to the chase about how we operate, how we use our gifts. Worth sitting with.
Okay, let's list some. He asks, will inertia guide you, or will you follow your passions?
Will you follow dogma, or will you be original?
Choose a life of ease, or one of service and adventure.
Wilt under criticism, or follow your convictions?
Bluff when you're wrong, or apologize.
Guard your heart, or act when you fall in love.
Play it safe, or be a little bit swashbuckling. Love that one.
Ah, yeah. When it's tough, give up or be relentless.
Be a cynic, or be a builder.
Be clever at others' expense or be kind.
Wow. Listing them out like that, they really paint a picture, don't they? So many are about choosing action, growth, contribution over just comfort.
They really are fundamental choices. They force you to think about the kind of person you want to be, the kind of impact you want to have. It's about being intentional.
Are you driving the bus, or are you just a passenger?
Pretty much. Are you deliberately crafting your life or just letting things happen to you? These questions push for that deliberateness.
He also brings up the idea of empowering others, creating things that let other people be creative.
Yes, the multiplier effect. Building tools or platforms so others can build their dreams. Your impact becomes much bigger than just your own direct work.
It's about contributing to the whole ecosystem, enabling others' success, leaving that kind of legacy.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the point about loving what you do. Sounds simple, but he sees it as critical.
Basically argues you'll never be truly great at something if you don't love it. That passion is almost a requirement for excellence.
Right. He even imagines historical figures Verne, Twain, Galileo, Newton, how they'd thrive today with all the information and tools we have.
Because they had that intense, intrinsic curiosity and drive.
Exactly. When you love the work, it's not just work anymore, is it? It's energy, it's engagement.
Definitely. Hey, just jumping in here, if you're finding this deep dive useful and these ideas are sparking something for you, maybe consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. We do more explorations like this over there.
Good point. And just to wrap up his core message, he circles back to that gifts versus choices idea.
Yeah. We all have gifts, talents, things we're naturally good at. But the real question is,
Will you take pride just in having those gifts? Or will you take pride in the choices you make about how you use them?
that's the kicker, isn't it? It puts the responsibility and the potential for real pride squarely on our decisions and our actions.
So to quickly recap, we've touched on minimizing future regret, finding a true calling, the power of slow is smooth, valuing choices over gifts, and aiming for a life of service and adventure.
Key takeaways from Bezos' perspective. So building on that final point about choices, here's something to think about after listening.
Okay.
Considering his focus on choices shaping our lives, what's one choice, maybe even a small one, that you can make today or this week that moves you even slightly closer to the life you want to look back on with pride?
That's a great question to reflect on. What small action aligns with that bigger picture?
Exactly,
Mm.
something to mull over. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.